Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their new books, novels, comics, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows and the new Star Wars movies that are currently in the works, as well as other projects that Jon and Dave are currently working on to really bring a more positive side of the Star Wars franchise. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the new Star Wars universe that a lot of fans have been very invested in is the fact that we have, of course, Favreau, Filoni, and Lucas delivering a brand new experience to the Star Wars fans. Basically, they are going to be borrowing a lot of elements from Star Wars Legends and throwing that into the current Disney canon and seeing how it's going to work, testing the waters, you know, what they want to continue with, what they want to not continue with. It's all really going to be a big experiment for Favreau and Filoni to really expand the good parts of Legends and keeping things as accurate as possible and to just see how the fans accept that. And I think that, you know, a lot of fans have a lot of faith in them. Now, given that there are a lot of things happening right now behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm, a lot of changes being made, mind you, by Disney executives and Bob Chapek, the CEO, I mean, there's a lot of changes being applied by Disney to Lucasfilm to really make way for a more respectful time for the franchise. They want to handle the Star Wars universe in a very different way than Kathleen Kennedy handled it. And that brings us to what's been going on most recently with Jon Favreau. Now, that brings us to where we are today. Now, given that it is the end of September, Andor is now out. We are awaiting the release of Tales of the Jedi in October before we head into the new year. Now, with both Disney and Lucasfilm now focused on their new Star Wars shows that are in development, creators Jon and Dave are actively working on The Mandalorian 4 as we speak. However, recently Jon Favreau got yet another promotion over at Lucasfilm by the Disney executives that is set to grant him even more power with Lucasfilm as a company that will propel Star Wars in a better path. As of now, Favreau is described to be in charge of the casting for many of the new Star Wars TV shows slated for 2024 and beyond, and will also be taking control of the marketing for other shows that are currently in the works that will go into production in the near future. Now, this was said to be Bob Chapek's idea, since he has been very unhappy with Kathleen Kennedy making the wrong casting choices for many projects so far, and how she has been marketing the new Star Wars shows in a very bad way. With these recent promotions that were given to Favreau, is now controlling roughly 65% of the upcoming show's casting and marketing to regulate the Star Wars franchise and to bring it into a more positive path for the overall fandom. So let's just stop right here quickly for a second before I get to the more involved material, alright? Now, given that Favreau said this before in the past, that he has this big game plan of his to essentially bring back Star Wars Legends, to bring back the highlights of that time in Star Wars when George Lucas was really approving all these stories and all these different ideas, and how it's really going to give fans something to really look forward to. Now, given that we are now at the very end of September, this is all going to go into effect for Favreau by next month. So there's a lot of changes coming our way for everything in 2023 and beyond. Given that he is taking control over 65% of the show's marketing and the casting, it goes to show you that we're going to be getting better trailers, better teaser trailers and TV spots because of Favreau. We're also going to be getting better casting choices for the upcoming shows and everything around those lines, all the new spin-offs, etc. That, I think, is excellent news, and the fact that Favreau is just taking over quite drastically. I think it goes to show you that Disney is pulling a very interesting strategy here, you know, from their minds, by basically making Favreau a president of Lucasfilm, from what it seems, without giving him that title. Because this is exactly what Kathleen Kennedy currently does and or used to do, because now a lot of that's being taken away. And he's really being given this opportunity to propel the franchise in a more respectful manner. And I think that's really something to look forward to. Now, one thing I will admit, I get it. I understand the criticism of Bob Chapek based on the Disney parks, based on the general Disney movies, like the regular Disney live-action films. I understand all of that. But one piece of credit I have to give to Bob Chapek is allowing Favreau and Filoni to do whatever in the world that they want to do with these new Star Wars TV shows. And that, to me, gives me hope about, the Ahsoka series, about Mando 3 and 4, about the Bo-Katan show that's going to be announced next year. I mean, there's so much on the horizon. So moving on to the next thing here, alright, obviously a lot of fans have been very much invested in Jon Favreau. So, additionally, Kathleen Kennedy is described to be extremely unhappy about all of this since Chapek gave him the promotion over at Lucasfilm. As of now, Favreau is set to also be taking over the marketing of the Acolyte TV series to build up the hype for the show properly for the fans. Now, initially, Kathleen Kennedy refused to make a full trailer for the Acolyte and wanted to only release a teaser in the future sometime next year. However, Favreau is said to be fixing all of that and is going to be in charge of the full trailer for the Acolyte and the TV spots that come after it. Favreau is still in the process of trying to fix Kathleen Kennedy's issues that made its way into the shows after, of course, other 5 episodes that are now being fixed by him. So that's another thing to be aware of, is the fact that Favreau is fixing the Acolyte series as best as he can. Now, do I have a lot of faith in this show because Favreau has a lot of power over those 5 episodes? Well, it all really depends. Because at the end of the day, Kathleen Kennedy still has power over the 4 most important episodes of the series that are said to be very crucial to the plot, and that's one thing to be a little worried about. Now, I get it, the Acolyte sounds great on paper because it's about emerging dark side powers. It's about this, mystery thriller type of genre that's being, thrown into the Star Wars universe, and I get it. It sounds interesting, right? But we must not forget that it's of course Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland who's leading the show for the 4 most crucial episodes that could really create the show as a disaster no matter what Favreau does with the other 5. Depending on exactly what the execution's going to be, what the context of the story's going to be like, it all depends. So anyways, guys, on top of all of this, given that Favreau is really having the time of his life now, I mean, he is getting all these opportunities, he's really, getting something so rare, so different, and so, out of the ordinary by Disney, that he is able to do pretty much whatever in the world he wants to do with Star Wars, and not just on a creative level, but also now seemingly on a business level, which basically is making him a Lucasfilm president in a sense almost. He's really getting a lot of control, and it really makes you wonder, this is probably a great strategy by Disney to allow him to be like a president, but to also at the same exact time creating actual shows. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.